I don't know about everyone else here on this event, but I've been on a lifelong mission to understand the world as it is. And on this journey, I encountered Daniel Quinn's book, Ishmael, which for such a thin book astounded me for its simplicity, as it succinctly begins to interrogate the very foundational pillars of what this place we call home is. I discovered that as humans, there are a few most obvious questions which we almost never ask. My favorite one of which is, how did the world come to be the way that it is? And then, without doing a deep dive into the book itself, I'd like to unpack some aspects of this question. It wasn't easy to choose a focus area out of the seven because, for one, they're pretty much interlinked. And they're also pretty much the very big issues I and the team of people I work with are consumed with every day. I am honored, humbled, and privileged to be a part of a gathering of this nature. Rubbing shoulders with like-minded and like-spirited individuals in our collective search for practical yet honest answers to some of humanity's most poignant questions. This is profoundly powerful, in my opinion, because this commonality unites us, and unity is humanity's greatest strength, and at the same time, its most feared possibility. While the former is kind of obvious, it is the latter that explains the incredible success of the practice, strategy, and tactics of divide and rule. But let's leave that there. When we talk of humanity, we believe or think we are referring to all people. But are we? Are we really thinking and talking about all the inhabitants of the planet Earth as we know it? How do we treat each other? And how does that treatment make each one of us feel, individually and as a community of nations? Yeah, you've guessed it. I chose the one focus area that connects all of them, equality. My name is Faizal Daniels, and I live in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm a people and planet lover. My background, both academically and former career-wise, is in the public and NGO sectors. With 40 years experience as a political, social, economic, and environmental activist. Growing up in apartheid South Africa gave me first-hand experience of living in an unequal world. It's probably why I have found myself immersed in work related to the inequalities suffered by youth, women, people living with disabilities. In the last 10 or so years, I, like some of you perhaps, have become somewhat at odds with the world, uncomfortable really. When you look outside, do you see what I see? I see a broken world made up of broken systems, designed by the desires of broken people, people who occupy the highest echelons of society. I will briefly mention some of the manifestations of this brokenness without necessarily taking too much time with the details, right? The financial system is broken. 95% of all material wealth is vested with 3% of people. The healthcare system is broken. It has no care in it, only profits. The food production system is broken. It is based on toxic petrochemical interventions that undermine the very integrity of the very substrate that it depends on. The food system is broken. Most of the food-like stuff sold today is one molecule away from being plastic. The national and global multilateral governance systems are broken. They serve the few at the expense of the many. The human relations system is broken. It places people in different hierarchical roles depending on gender, race, class, creed, culture, and so on. Of course, I could go on, but by now you get the picture, right? I mean, in answer to the question Daniel Quinn poses, we first have to establish how the world is. That is the easy part. It is generally and universally unequal. And what is the world in objective terms? Well, we live in a white world, and we live in a global patriarchy. It doesn't matter whether we agree with this or not, or believe it or not. This is what is when I look outside. The easy and obvious response should be that, well, let's create a world where women of darker hues run everything. I, for one, wouldn't mind that at all. When we understand how the world got to be this way, we can begin to desire and design a different world, a world with systems, processes, programs, projects, and products that are deliberately created antithetically to what is. My former self would disagree with me, but perhaps I could convince him that we don't need to fight what exists in order to replace it. We simply need to build it alongside what is. The one thing that is obvious in its clarity is that we have to think about and do things differently, because repeating the same thinking and actions and expecting different outcomes only serves to make us certifiably insane. To summarize this point, we live in a world where inequality has not only been justified, but also normalized as how things are. We have accepted this on some impressively grand scale everywhere, by everyone. And therein lies the success of this social engineering project of the last few centuries, with its upkeep mainly relying on the management of the dominant narrative. I would like to point out here that if we are not realizing that the dominant narrative includes both what the elites articulate and the dissent that they allow, then we are not seeing the full picture yet. But let me answer the question of what it is that what I can do, and then perhaps later that we can do together to bring about a more equal and equitable global community of nations, starting at home, of course. I am currently the managing director for Mpowa Africa, a pan-African social enterprise. We're a SaaS startup creating new opportunities for growth and development by blending disruptive clean technology, the blockchain, and impact investing. The Mpowa mandate is quantifiably to address the issue of equality for all, motivated by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Our main focus is to democratize the clean tech revolution, creating equal access to clean water, ensuring energy sovereignty, restoring regenerative agriculture, and the big social impact issues like gender-based violence, all kinds of abuse, which I will come back to just in a little bit. One of the most satisfying traits of Mpowa, which makes it most satisfying to actually belong and be a part of this company and its mission, is that it is an actual bottom-up company. We work with a community of young grassroots leaders across Africa who have taken it upon themselves to identify areas of need and find solutions for their communities. And one of the proudest moments for me and Mpowa was the launch of our Decarbonizer app in alpha version. Because this app, the Decarbonizer, links Martha and her SDG-focused community project in Uganda with investors the world over. Martha's project is assessed by our DAO, giving the community the opportunity and responsibility to look at all projects, pardon me, all projects with the same equal lens. The Decarbonizer Pro app will become, when it launches, a vital equalizer in the carbon finance space because it will calculate carbon offset, measure, monitor, verify, and report and store all information on our blockchain. At the same time, our in-house ESG fund will have been launched with a stated purpose of bringing credibility to the carbon-based economy and preventing greenwashing. Because greenwashing is a way of sustaining inequality, because who's doing the greenwashing, right? The technologies we bring to market and to communities are disruptive, scalable, and less harmful to the environment than mature technologies like solar and wind. Apart from this, as we pursue greater equality, we are working with technology partners, innovators, inventors, and people with crazy ideas to push the boundaries of technological advancement from a humanitarian perspective. Our logic, by way of illustration, is quite simple. Energy is free, it is universally accessible, and it moves in non-linear ways. For energy to become the manifested equalizer in the real world, innovation will have to make it available wirelessly. And as much as I'm calling it innovation, it is actually an old technology discovered and successfully illustrated and deployed by the likes of Nikola Tesla and others. I specifically didn't mention the phenomenon of the climate crisis, nor the dominant narrative around it, because I wanted to single it out as one of the worst forms of hypocrisy the world has seen to date. Africa has the smallest continental carbon footprint in spite of its size, and at the same time, it is paying the highest, worst, and most inhumane price for the impact of climate-related disasters: famine, drought, floods, pests, crop failure, hunger, and malnutrition, among others. With the Decarbonizer Pro app, the facts and stats will be accurately captured and stored in an immutable and incorruptible manner. The technology basket and regenerative agriculture will push back the imbalances wreaking havoc across Africa and the world, and restore our capacity to become the bread basket for Africans first and the rest of the world subsequently. The contextual realities that hamstring innovation in the world generally, and Africa in particular, are low levels of access to reliable energy sources, connectivity, and appropriate technologies. While it is true that the blockchain and its technological evolutions, metaverse, Internet of Things, Web3, is indeed one of the 21st century's greatest achievements as an equalizer, a leveler of the playing field, it, in fact, must address these challenges with some sense of urgency if Africa is to reassume, let me say that again, to reassume a role at the pinnacle of human advancement and development. On this front, there is cause for optimism and hope. I am happy to agree. Nigeria is leading the charge on this front, with being one of the fastest growing centers of innovation in the blockchain, metaverse, IoT, and Web3 spaces. Cross-border, multilateral, and multinational organizations like the United Africa Blockchain Association, under the leadership of the very strong African female voice and personality of Yaliwe Soko, are working tirelessly towards this end. Our actions to build out the African innovation capacity must be imbued with a sense of urgency. Our focus needs to be laser sharp and our resolve unwavering. I would like to invite you to imagine an Africa where energy independence, maximum connectivity, and access to technological and other resources are more or less universal. I want you to do this keeping in mind that, to name a few, such worthy inventions by African high school students, mostly girls, as a battery that could last up to 400 years, according to an American university, an earpiece that reports abuse, internal combustion engines running on urine, and most recently, digital X-ray glasses for when you go hiking or you're at an event and somebody had a bad fall. You put on the glasses, you see if there's a break. All of the likes of these have come from Africa as it is right now, highly unequal in the world in terms of its peers, and permeated with inequality at its fibers internally. Now, imagine an Africa and world where each child can pursue their wildest, craziest dreams free from want and scarcity. What will these kids come up with? I want to spend the last few minutes on our Stop Abuse campaign to illustrate the relationship between solving culturally complex issues like gender-based violence and abuse and violence generally, and technological tools and products. At Mpowa, we are right now putting the final touches on the architecture of our Defendor app. The Defendor becomes a tool in the hands of anyone who feels threatened in a given situation because of its ethical AI and machine learning overlay. It will record images, audio, video, geolocation in real time, and send it to the blockchain so it can be used as evidence. Can you imagine the quality of the evidence? I think courts the world over will probably regard the quality of evidence as around 100% pure because of the blockchain, because it's immutable and incorruptible. Here is the innovation though. If the situation that X is in is of such a nature that they're experiencing imminent danger, the artificial intelligence picks this up and alerts the nearest local law enforcement agencies by location of this unfolding situation. We know campaigns are campaigns. They don't impact statistics significantly, but technology and technological products like this can and will. In conclusion, I repeat that the topic of equality is a broad one, and one couldn't possibly do justice to it in a comprehensive manner. But events like these are mere gardens in which to plant seeds. If you wish to do something instead of nothing, to bring some positive change to the continent and world, I invite you to join our vast and growing network of people and their organizations who are crazy enough to think and believe they can change the world. The role and place for technology, technological products, and the blockchain to support the emergence of an equal society should not be underestimated. I dream of an Africa whose children know and respect its natural resources, especially water, and have it in ample supply. Not one where we look north and west for solutions to our challenges. There are no solutions coming from there. Remember the analogy with insanity that I quoted earlier? It comes from Einstein, by the way. Africa, for the last 100 years, has been looking north and west, and the presidents fly to Paris and Brussels and London, and they take these beautiful pictures with their counterparts. And what happens back home? Nothing. They don't do anything. They don't build anything. They don't even build equality. It is because of our presidents and the presidents they go and visit that we live in this unequal world, on this unequal African continent. But one where we look inward and design, develop, and deploy African solutions to Africa's challenges as Africans. I dream of an Africa where energy is a source of inspiration, not frustration. An Africa where Ubuntu is a common thread from Cape to Cairo. An Africa free from want and inequality. An abundant Africa where our joy unlocks the individual and collective innate creativity this continent is so well known for. I dream this dream with open eyes. Come, dream this beautiful dream with me. I thank you very much for taking the time to listening to me.